All right, so with the end of the semester, I definitely missed doing the April reading wrap up. So we're going to talk about the books that I read in the months of April and May. Let's get to it. What up, Church fam? Sade here. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new, my name is Sade, and I'm out here curating and co-creating a cool ass life and telling you about the books that I've been reading while sitting in front of my couch because we're family. Speaking of which, whether this is your first time coming across my little corner of the internet or you keep coming back, have not hit the subscribe button, might I invite you to join my internet family? Hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, be made aware of every time I post, which is usually on the weekends. Okay. So we got to talk about these 29 books that I read in the last 2 months. So what I will say is that we're coming up on the mid-year, so I'm going to have to do some sort of mid-year reading progress report. But in April, I read 20 books, apparently. Surprise to me, because I was fighting for my life up through middle of May. And then in May, I read 11 books, which I guess that seems about right, because I was reading a little slowly as I was traveling and things like that, just trying to slow down a bit. And I've been working hard to try to slow down my reading in general, but that's neither here nor there. We here now together. Most of the books that I read were either audiobooks, and a few of them were digital books. And then I have 2 physical books that I read and that I've talked about before, so I'm not going to belabor the point. One is Baldwin, A Love Story by Nicholas Boggs. And I did this one both in physical book and audiobook. And it was long, child, but it was so good. The audiobook reader did such a great Baldwin impression that it just made the sort of dialogue parts of the narrative that much more rich. And so it takes a look at Baldwin's life and career, but particularly through his relationships, both romantic, familial, all of those things, friends, but also kind of shows like the sort of fraught way of an artist and writer who believes in love, but also has all of these challenges and hangups and all of the things. It was very good. Then, of course, I told you I was doing this. I finished Her Monstrous Beasts by E.P. Bali, and I did that as the physical book. Time was had, friends. It ended out really good. Like, I really enjoyed the end of the Her vs. Beast series, and I'm gonna restart the series because the 5th audiobook comes out in the fall, and of course I will be getting it and listening to it but it was nice because I listened to the audiobooks that I could hear the narrators in my head, which was also very cool. I did 3 Brothers by Granger, which is the 3rd book in the Drew Collins series. And it was good, pretty satisfying, I guess. We're learning more about Maggie and her connection to the founders of the school, but also the deep classism that's happening between the magical folk. And the drama was dramaing, especially when we got around to the werewolves, because child, they a mess. They a mess, child. So yeah, so far, like, it's continuing to be a really enjoyable read. I probably would go back and reread the whole thing, but I was not disappointed at all in the 3rd installment of this series. I think it's up to 4 or 5 books, so I'll be picking up the next one. For the class that I taught in the semester, and I talked about some of the other books that I taught for my American social ethics class, And I read with my student Preparing for War by Bradley Onishi, which is about the development, continued development of white Christian nationalism through the lens of someone who was this sort of like evangelical Christian who became an academic. And so it was really interesting, and it sort of definitely sort of get some of its footing from the January 6th insurrection. So it like sort of frames that as well, which I thought was quite interesting. Did it piss me off? Of course. But otherwise, it was a good book. And I will say, like, if you are interested in that sort of theory, politics, and religion with the sort of development of far right and Christian nationalist sensibilities, then yes, it's a good book to read. But also, if not, you're going to be bored. So I'd only suggest it if you are a certain kind of interest in those themes. One of the writers that I wanted to add to my reading this year was Joan Didion. And I wanted to read Didion because she's an essayist and like a well-known, renowned essayist. So I read The Year of Magical Thinking, which is about loss and grief and navigating it. It was just okay for me. I'm going to try again with another of Didion's writings, and that'll be Walking Toward Bethlehem. And I don't know when I'm going to get to that, but we'll see if I have a better time with that. I also did the next book in the series that's like an Omegaverse, a Black Omegaverse. That's all of the titles are not your KNOT. So I did Not Their First Rodeo. And this picks up with Genesis, who is a journalist and the sister or half-sister to one of the male main characters from the first book. So she is a very independent Omega. She lives her life on heat suppressants and things like that because she's a career woman. And she's pretty much told that she can't take on more risky projects, journalistic projects, because she's an unmated Omega and it's not safe. And so she is told by her editor that she needs to take some time off, have a proper heat, da 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 da. So she ends up getting matched with this pack who are older, 30s and 40s. I think the oldest person is in his mid 40s, and their Omega died. And so they help Omegas through their heats, but they like don't know that they want to find another Omega. And so she ends up with them. Come to find out, they her pack. And you know, you have the tropes, the sort of like daddy figure, the free-spirited artist, the grumpy cowboy, and she's sassy. And they turn her everywhere but loose. It was a great time. It was a great time. I did that as a digital book. I also did Main Character Energy by Kendall Ryan, and I did this as an audiobook. And surprisingly, I really liked it. It's about this medical examiner who catches the eye of a firefighter, and he's charming, kind of the golden boy, and she is prickly. Her hair is purple. She don't talk to nobody, da da da. And he just goes for it, trying to make her like him, and they end up dating, and it's very cute. In the end, there's some drama and hard stuff that happens there, and I cried. I did. So yeah, it was a great time. I also did Too Hard to Resist by Olivia Spring, and this is like the third book in this series, the Love Hotel series. And so this one follows, I forget Sammy, and I forget the guy's name, but he is one of the love alchemists in Italy, and he's an Italian, and she is going to try to meet her match, and the person that they match her with is awful. He is a total douche canoe, and it pisses off her love alchemist, and he's like, oh, I gotta keep it. Like, this is my job. I can't, make any missteps, especially because he's hot And so he's gotten into snags with other people who have gone to the hotel, and because the women find him attractive and the men get insecure, and he's like just trying to do his job. And so he's also on thin ice because of that. And it's not even really his fault. And so, but he and Sammy end up having to spend a lot of time together because her match dips on her and just leaves the resort. And so he's like, to give her a good experience so she doesn't miss out on anything, they end up like together all the time and they fall for each other. It's so cute. I had a great time. It was great. I also had like a Victoria Aveline spree and reread like 4 books in the Klakanian series. I reread Resisting Maxu, Ruling Sikthand, Choosing Theo, and Bewitching Rhegp. And I think I did them all as audiobooks because the audio narrator, I think his name is Stephen Dexter. My God, today. What a time. A great time. So that's why I did that. I'm not gonna belabor the point. Y'all know I love the Klakanians. If you ain't on them, go get on them. I read the second book, and I don't know what the name of the series is. When I figure it out, I'll put it up here. But it's called On the Care and Keeping of Orcs by Kass O'Shire. And it's about this hair shifter who, her baby daddy is an orc and kind of a deadbeat. So she's stuck raising her 2 half orcish daughters by herself, and she's trying to figure it out, but she's also like a very soft person and like a little skittish. And her childhood friend of her and her brother, who's a bear shifter, he comes back. He's an orc, and because he was raised with the shifters, and so he never quite fit in with the orcs, and he's a sweetheart. And come find out, he'd always been in love with her. So they're trying to, what are they trying to do? I think they're trying to find ways to bridge together the orcs and the shifters and like make peace or whatever. So they end up on a journey together and getting closer to one another and like have this magnetic pull because they both had feelings for one another forever. And she's mad at him because he left, and like he doesn't he's trying to explain to her, I wouldn't have left if I knew da 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 da. And these kids, I'm gonna raise them like they my own. Like, he's a stand-up orc. And so it was very cute, and the narrators are very good. The Art of Reading Minds by Henrik Fexus. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly because I don't think I wrote it down right. And it was fine. I was reading it because of, seeing if there's anything that would help me in my writing, right? The idea of how to observe better, how to engage in conversations and interact with others, to kind of use mentalist skills to navigate interactions and stuff like that. And so I was reading it to see if there was anything helpful in it, especially for my writing. It was all right. I probably would not suggest it to read anybody, though. I also did Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, and it was so cute. Oh, it was so cute. So again, we got 2 doctors, and one is trying to become like the head of hospital or whatever the distinction is. And a new guy has started. He's got a bad rap because he's prickly, but turns out baby's autistic. And so, but he too is like this wonder kid, and he's also had some issues with his interactions with patients and things like that. And so the current head of hospital is about to retire. And so the chick is like, well, I'm a shoo-in for this. And they're like, oh, we're going to hold off to give this guy, give everybody a chance to know this guy just in case, so it's fair, woo woo wham. And of course she goes ballistic. And this guy's like, I don't even want that. I just want to do my job and go home. And so they end up, sharing space in like a closet because she goes and hides in the closet, and she's also, you know, getting through a divorce and all of those things. And so they start bonding, and she starts to understand him and his, you know, rhythms and stuff as someone who has autistic needs. And she's like, oh, okay. And then of course they start developing feelings for one another. It's very cute. I enjoyed it a lot. I also did Sleet, Kitten, and Sleet Sugar by S.J. Tilley. This is a hockey romance, and the titles Kitten and Sugar, these are the names that the guys call the female main characters. It's supposed to be cute or whatever. And so they were okay. My friend put me on them. They're like really sweet. The guys are pretty stand up, pretty wholesome. Like overall, I think the main characters are plus size, at least in the first one, if I remember correctly. She is. So yeah, it was cute. I'm going to continue the series, I think, because I want to see what happens in the third book, because that character is one of the girls in the friend group, and she's a mess. Like, she's a hot mess. So I'm interested to see how her story goes. Dopamine by Anne Lembke, PhD. I read this because I have been thinking about my engagement with technology and social media and things like that, and how it sort of short circuits pleasure centers and things like that, because we do know that it gives us tiny shots of dopamine, which is why we keep doing it. And it's very addictive. So I wanted to, you know, read about it a little bit. It was fine book. Scratch the itch for my knowledge desires, I would say. I did Unbidden by Dreia Wells, which is like a novella in the Hell Knight Academy series. I could have done without it. Honestly, I didn't like it. Was one of the incubus love mate to Micah Rook. This is about finding him in whatever disembodied underworld he's in, and it's bringing in the character Cain, like from Cain and Abel. And it was a little weird, not gonna lie. So hopefully that leads to something a little bit more well integrated and fleshed out into the world or the series. I also did Every Chance You Get by Sloane Spencer, and I forgot to get my physical copy because I did read this as a physical book and finished it as a book on my Kindle. And this is super cute because it's about in a rugby series, right? And so this is the third book. Of course, y'all know I'm chaotic, so I missed the second book and didn't realize until I was reading the third book. You know, things happen. And so this is about Jonah, who's like the most golden retriever to ever have golden retrievered. And he is just like super lucky. And he does the rugby thing, but he's also an exotic dancer. So he's like really hot and like ripped and all this stuff. And he ends up doing a lap dance for his former professor. And she's in her late 30s. I think she's like 38 and has 2 kids. And she's out for the night with her friends for one of her friends' birthdays and all this stuff. And so they get hot and heavy because he's always had a crush on her, but she wouldn't try to talk to him because he was not a good student. And he ends up like winning the lottery and buys the property next to her small house. And so he starts doing his best to stop being the sort of like hapless, free-spirited screw up that his family and teammates think he is, that he's trying to be more responsible, and especially trying to be more responsible so that he can be a better man for this professor that he is now his neighbor. And he's like, I'm gonna get to know her and I'm gonna be good for her and her 2 daughters and things like that. And it's very cute. She's also a dominatrix. And so that part was great. That was a great sort of subplot in the story, as well as there's a plot twist as to why she's a widow. But I'm not gonna spoil it. So it was very cute, and there are animals, and we love that. His to Sorta by Emilia Rossi. And this was just like a mafia romance, age gap. It was okay. Age gap is not really my vibe. So I was just, it was hard to not get a little icked out because of the age gap for me. But it was fine for a book to read. Didn't really stick with me that much. I also did The Dead Take the A Train, which was like a really weird book that I don't even remember how it came up against. And it's like about this like drug addict, monster hunter type person. And she ends up crossing with or like accidentally summoning an entity that subsumes everything, but it's also being covered up by this company that her ex works for, and her ex is a piece of trash. And like they're navigating this body snatching entity that's trying to gain power over the realm and all this stuff. And it is really weird, but I won't say it was bad. Like I enjoyed it, but it was a very strange book, to be sure. I finally did The Scammer by Tiffany D. Jackson, and child, oh my God, it was very good. Oh, but I was getting so angry because of the very like hotep nature of the antagonist. His name is Devontae. He's one of the main character girls. I forgot her name. One of her roommates, and he starts like finessing the other students, and she's at this HBCU, and like she gets caught up in it, and the only one that's like trying to keep her out of trouble is the white boy that's a Kappa, and he's like student body president and all the things, and she's trying not to like him, especially because of the fact that like, what are you as a white person doing here at this HBCU? And like, that's a fair question. And so, but he actually is a really stand-up guy, and like his story and how he gets there. So the backstories were just really good and really well fleshed out. And the plot twist at the end, child, she did that. She ate that right on up. So I had a really good time reading Tiffany D. Jackson, but it was taking me through with my nerves because, you know, my 38-year-old eyes up against reading about 18-year-olds. Oh, and I just, stressed. I did Not a Good Idea by Leanna Carlisle, and this is an Omegaverse reversed harem. And I read it because I was looking for more books narrated by some of the narrators I liked. And one of those people is Oliver Highpoint. And so Oliver Highpoint does the male characters in the book. And it was cute. I'll be looking forward to the second half because it sort of ends on a cliffhanger, and it's about this chick who's an Omega who gets kidnapped. Of course, again, I'm chaotic, so this was like the fourth book in this series of books that had 2 installments that were her friend and her friend's pack, and then now we're getting to her, and she ends up with this pack, and they're trying to help take care of her during her heat. And they fall for her. She's like, no, we can't do that. Like, we can't be together. Da 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 da. I'm too damaged. All the things. And she's also like a baker, and so it was pretty cute, and sad, right? The Arachnid by Ivy Ophelia. I've been waiting for that one, and it did not disappoint. And so this is about, I guess, was it like 6 or some years later? The poisoner ends up in New York, and she's still killing men, but she's also doing these experiments to figure out the Vipera, and she started this nest that's all women, and she's trying to refigure the politics of how nests and these the people that become feeders to Vipera and vampires and all this stuff. And of course, the Silas, the creature, he tracks her down, honey. He's like, baby, you mine. And they have such an antagonistic, weird relationship with one another. And this is a very dark one. It's very dark. They be like doing violence to one another. It has some CNC in it. And you gotta check the trigger warnings. Me myself personally, I'm having a great time. Can't wait for the third book because I gotta know what happens next. Because child, that end, Ophelia did that. The Cuddle Claws by Roxy Ray. And this was such a cute book. I did it on Kindle Unlimited. It's just a random book that I found. And it's about this guy who's a werewolf and he's looking for a roommate. And this chick who, you know, gets unceremoniously broken up with by her boyfriend and put out their apartment. And so she ends up becoming his roommate. And part of it that she didn't really read was that his roommate agreement had a cuddle clause because he is, you know, autistic. Like, he's neurodivergent and doesn't, like, he's the soon to be beta of his pack. He doesn't want to do that, but his cousin's the alpha and like has an idea of what his role should be in the pack, and that's not even what he really wants to do. And he's really sweet. And so they become friends, but also then they start fake dating. You know, that's my favorite song. And so she's supposed to be his mate because now the pack is the magic connected to the pack is waning. And so the alpha is like, everybody has a mate, got to get a mate so we can restore this power to the area that's dependent on our pack, because we can't be out here looking weak because the streets is watching and whatever. And so it's really cute. I enjoyed this a lot. I'm probably going to read something else by Roxy Ray. I think I downloaded another book, and she does like cozy paranormal, so I love that. I did More Than Words by Lexi Black, and this was so cute. This I was on a Ryan Lee Dunlap kick as well. I read like 2 or 3 books that were narrated. That one of the narrators was Ryan Lee Dunlap, and great time was had by me. And so this one is about a woman who, I forget her name. I think their name is like Kate or something like that. And she ends up becoming the assistant to this like rock star who is deeply ADHD, but he's such a bean, and he learns to appreciate her and then falls for her, and they like start getting into this relationship, and she has mad issues after her last relationship breakup because her ex was so manipulative and emotionally abusive towards her. And so now this guy is like, I'm trying to do better and be better and get more of a handle on my ADHD because I want you to know how much I appreciate you, but also if anybody takes you sideways, I'm gonna have to take them through the dirt. And so he's so cute, and I'm just like, oh, how wholesome. Outside of the fact that he be turning her every which way but loose. So it was very cute. I also did Let Us Turn Up the Beat by Berlin Wick. And I picked this up on a rec, probably from Spoken. And I like the narrators, but the book was just okay. This was a lightly plotted smutty book. That's what I can say about it. It was less than okay for me, but I read it very quickly. Then I did Just the Tipsy by Audrey Vaughn, which is the second book in the Striker series. And this is the twin brother. Yeah. The twin brother of the male main character in the first book. And he's a vet, and he's the golden boy. And this chick who is an influencer whose boyfriend breaks up with her and she moves to this small town to try to settle the estate of her aunt, grandma, something like that. And she takes over the care of this dog in the process. And so she's trying to figure out how to transition her life, especially away from LA. And so she's doing that in this small town. So she ends up, retrieving the dog from this guy who's the vet and also had been taking care of the dog when her aunt died. And so they think each other's hot. And then they start fake dating because he started his mom and everybody on his ass to date and like be a part of the community in the ways that the mom wants to. Is like very upper middle class and mobile ways people function. And so they start fake dating. Then they start sleeping together because she has a sort of bucket list of things that she wants to do, including like sexual things. And he's like, well, I'll help you Famous last words, my friends. And so, of course, they catch feelings for one another. It's great. Great time. A time was had. This was also partially narrated by Ryan Lee Dunlap and J.Y. Cora, who I also like, and I'm going to listen to more books with her as a narrator. Then I read Plum Bun by Jessie Redmond Fawcett. And I told you all, after I'd read Harlem Rhapsody, that I was going to read things by Jessie Redmond Fawcett. And this was such a good book. It's called A Novel Without a Moral. And it's about this woman who can pass. And like her mom could pass. And so her mom used to take her with her and they would pass together as when she was a child. And so she thinks about passing as this way to have this life that will be closed off from her because she was Black. But like now she has to really consider the ramifications of what these things mean in terms of like how she interacts with Black folks. It was good. It was good. It was good. I'm gonna read something else. I think I'm gonna read the first book that Fawcett did as well. But yeah, I had a great time with that one, and it was not very long. I think we made it, friends. That's all of the books. What did you read in April and in May? Let me know in the downstairs or the comment section. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend about the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.